Well. Welcome back to New York Sports WickerMedia. I'm WatchUK99. Are you really surprised? I opened up the show with the playing of taps because I'll tell you what, after watching these, not just these last two losses, but watching this offense play like it has for the last month plus, with no changes, no updates, just nothing to adjust at all. You have a historically bad offense through the New York Jets, and yet Coach Robert Saleh continues to stay with Zach Wilson, continues to stay with Nathaniel Hackett as the play caller. There's an expression, if you do what you always did, then you always get what you always got. And the Jets have now gone 10 or 11 quarters with no offensive touchdowns. The last time the Jets scored a touchdown, Curtis Martin was on the team. I didn't watch too much football today. I had some other things going on up until the second half of the late games. So I watched some of the Giants against the Cowboys, and it's one thing to lose like the Giants did. When you are outclassed, when you have inferior talent, when you're going on the road against a team that is just outright better than you in every way, it frustrates you as a fan to see your team get beat down, but deep down you knew it was going to happen, you accept it, and you look forward to the future, hoping better days are ahead. But when you lose a game like the Jets did on Sunday night, when you beat yourself again and again and again with terrible play calling, with drop passes, missed tackles, it guts you like a fish. And this game ended it for me. I'm out on this team as far as any chance of making the playoffs. I don't know if they could somehow beat Miami and Buffalo next week. If Nick and Brick come back in their prime, they come out of retirement, and maybe Pennington or Testaverde can come back. Maybe I think I'll take Joe Montana or Johnny Unitas at this point. Maybe they got a shot. But we have seen the same horrible offense now ever since the Kansas City game. Ironically, ever since the Jets started winning games. Because the defense has stepped up. And this was an absolute carbon copy of the same football we've watched for the last month. The only difference is the other team going to make the killer mistake to give the Jets the game. And there's a lot of people I'm seeing killing Zach Wilson, talk about how much he sucks, this and that. Look, Zach played a game. I can't expect much more from him at this point. I really can't. I liked that he ran the ball well sometimes. He did make some very good throws. The last interception, of course, near the end of the game certainly hurt. But for the play calling, I don't understand what the Jets were doing. The Raiders lose another starting cornerback. The Jets refuse to throw the ball downfield when you have a quarterback who has a very strong arm. They tried one deep pass, didn't work. It has now been, oh my gosh. The Jets still, and you're going to hear it everywhere you go, the Jets are stuck at 8 offensive touchdowns over 9 games this season. They had 8 penalties in this game. The run defense is up and down, to say the least. The pass defense is elite. The run defense up and down. But there were times that when joshjacobs made some big runs against this Jets defense, and because of that, Aiden O'Connell didn't have to win the game. The Jets had to get ahead, by a decent number and force the Raiders to throw the ball. And they didn't do it. And they were up 6. That was the most it was, and it should have been a lot more. It really should have been. And the more I felt they were settling for field goals, it's like this is gonna get them, because this is not an offense that's gonna drive the ball down the field all game long. So when you have these opportunities, when you actually get into the red zone, you have to score a touchdown, because you don't know if you're getting back there again. My God. The Jets are 4-5. A season that had a little bit of hope, had a little bit of promise. I wanted to wait until the morning to record because I knew I was just so livid after being out 15 hours. And I I was not going to be able to get through this without absolutely screaming. And I'm going to get to the 3 key plays you may not remember that affected the outcome of the game. I just don't know where this team goes from here for the rest of the season. You know, it's easy to kill Zach again, but when you don't have a legitimate second option wide receiver, when the offensive line is basically held together by scotch tape and twine, and they did what they could. I thought maxxcrosby did make a big outcome on this game. I was quite surprised by that. But again, let's get into some statistics, okay? Just to show you where this is. First down, the Jets had 14, the Raiders had 15. Yards per play, the Jets had 5.8, the Raiders 4.4. The Jets, hey, this was good. 7 for 16 on third down. Very encouraging. That was a step. That was the one step in the right direction for the offense. Here's where it gets frustrating. Penalties. The Jets had 8 penalties for 83 yards. And how many killer penalties were there in this game? Not just bad penalties. How many killer penalties were there in this game? Whether it was either of cjuzomah's 2 holding calls, and I'll tell you this, cjuzomah to me is a poor man's version of Bart Scott on offense. That's how I would describe Uzomah. Great character, looks like a great guy. Great guy you'd want to hang out, have a beer with, talk football. But his level of play has dropped considerably. Last year, I would have considered him like a non-factor. He was like unflavored Greek yogurt or something like that. He was just there. This year, he has been a downright liability. And as annoyed as I can get with some of the tweets from certain people on Twitter, let's leave it at that, there's certain players they live to hate. And one of them is definitely cjuzomah. I can't blame them for that anymore. But whether it was one of the 2 cjuzomah holds, especially when the Jets had scored a touchdown on one of them, whether it was Michael Carter and a chop block and Xavier Gibson a hold on back-to-back plays, Lincoln Tomlinson with a holding penalty, offense. Brycehuff did have a roughing the passer penalty, which certainly hurt. But these unbelievably undisciplined, again, lack of focus penalties by this offense. They have to play crisp, efficient, and sound for them to have a chance because they're not going to win on talent. And they killed themselves all day long with these penalties. It makes me sick. And the fact that it is still a problem a month later, it has not changed. That's on the coaching. It is on the coaching to stop this from happening. Whether false starts, there's so many pre-snap penalties. It just drives me absolutely crazy. Because when you don't have the talent, you have to play smart. And there's too many times this offense plays with its head up its own rear end. But a couple of other stats. Breecehall, 13 carries for 28 yards. The blueprint is out. We are watching the same season we watched last year. The only difference is, last year the running backs were Michael Carter and Bam Knight. Now it's Breecehall. Because when you have 9 players looking to stop the run game, they can dare Zach Wilson to beat them because they know he's not going to. Breece can only do so much. Maybe you'll break one big play a game, and if you do, you get down on your knees, you light the candles, and you say, thank you, God, for that big play. And if it doesn't go in the end zone, deep down you know it's going to be a Gregzuerlein field goal at best. Dalvincook, 4 runs for 26 yards. Of course, 3 of them came right in a row. I know, Cook gets his 1 series a game, and that's the end of it. Tylerconklin played well. 7 catches on 7 targets for 70 yards. I'm glad that he got more involved in the offense as well. So there were signs on this offense that things were better, but ultimately they beat themselves. The Raiders did not win this game. The Jets gave it away because they beat themselves. All right, let's get into 3 key plays you may not remember that affected the outcome of the game, and then I got to get my butt over to work somehow. I'm wearing black on purpose right now because it does feel like a funeral. Anyway, play number 1. It's the second quarter. Jets are up 9-3. They've had field goals on their first 3 possessions, so this is possession number 4. They should have had at least 1 touchdown, but we've been through there. So this is the Dalvin drive, we're going to call it, right? This is about the only time in the game Cook gets the ball. He has 2 runs for 19 yards total, so this is a great start. Things are looking good. They have a 2nd and 1. But Nathaniel Hackett gets a little bit too confident with it and decides to do it again. 2nd and 1, Cook goes nowhere, no gain. And I've talked to you before about this. The Jets are terrible on 2nd down. They average about 2.5 yards per 2nd down play. And this is why they have so much trouble on 3rd down. And then, of course, 3rd and 1. When I saw Zach Wilson in shotgun with Breecehall next to him, I was sick inside. I knew what was coming. The people I was watching the game with, they knew what was coming. The Raiders knew what was coming. Breece stopped for no gain. Jets have to punt for the first time, and that was big because after that just shows you how delicate this offense is. The offense stalls. Over the next 4 drives, they had one measly, lousy first down. And that gave the Raiders a chance to crawl back in the game that, again, they should not have been in. Play number 2. It's now 9-9. Raiders have the ball inside it's late in the 3rd quarter, about 42 seconds left. They got a 2nd and 10 from their own 47-yard line. And Josh Jacobs takes off right down the middle for 40 yards. Right up the middle, barely touched. Saucegardner trying to tackle him, gave more of a pat on the back. He's like, yeah, keep going. But the Jets take him down inside the 10. Tonyadams knocks the ball loose inside the 10. And just as the Jets secondary is about to fall on the ball goes out of bounds right before Sauce or djreed can pounce on it. So that gives the Raiders possession. That allows the ball to stay with the Raiders. 3 plays later, Michaelmayer, who the Jets loved in the draft process, I talked about it on my pregame show. I wanted him on the Jets, even though I knew it wasn't the right time. He shoves it right up the Jets' collective rectums for the only touchdown of the game. It's a 16-9 Raiders lead. Ultimately, the fatal blow. And then play number 3, early in the 4th quarter, it's now 16-9. This is the Jets' next possession. The Jets actually get first downs on consecutive plays. Yes, it actually happened. I didn't think that had happened since 2015, but it happened. So on first down, they tried the wheel route where Garrett Wilson was going to throw the ball to Allen Lazard. Now, Lazard has a step. He would have had a walk-in touchdown. Bad pass out of bounds. Now it's 2nd and 10. Again, another 2nd down situation where the Jets struggle. Dalvincook comes out of the backfield, and Wilson throws behind him. It was not a play that Cook would have really made. I'm not saying he would have had the first down, but instead it wound up being a 3rd and 10. They had to settle for, they got 1 yard. Zach ran for like 1 yard, and it's another lame field goal. And instead of having a chance to tie the game, the Jets trail by 4, where they're still in a position where they have to score a touchdown. They couldn't do it with field goals anymore. And a lot of the critics of Zach Wilson will immediately go to the interception and talk about he sucks, and all of this. Look, it's easy to look at the one egregious pass, the one major mistake, although I think Allen Lazard could have gone back and maybe gone for that ball a little bit. I mean, Robert Spillane made a great play. As much as I can't stand him now, I'll give him some credit. But at the same time, these throws that are just a little bit off here, a little bit off there, that is what frustrates you so much, because you do see arm talent, you do see capability. He has $1 million arm and a 10-cent football brain. That is the deal with Zach Wilson, and that is how I would summarize him. But at this point, when you're 4-5, what good does it really do to bring in Trevor Siemian, to bring in Tim Boyle? Why? We know what they are. There's no point to bringing them in anymore. You know, I really hope... Look, I think that it's going to be one of those situations where both sides need a fresh start. The Jets need to move on from him, and he's going to need to move on from the Jets. But to me, I just don't see how you gain anything by playing Trevor Siemian or playing Tim Boyle the rest of the way. The Jets still have, 8 more games of this crap left to go. What good does it do to play one of these backup quarterbacks? I don't see it. So, just a terrible, terrible game. Just the same type of Jets loss that we have been watching for decades now. For decades. And I tell you what, you don't think Buffalo is going to be ready for this game, this next game on Sunday? Ever since the season opener, you know they've had that game highlighted on their calendars. If they use calendars, I don't know. But still, this is a game they are going to be giving the Jets everything that they have. This could be a run up the score type of game. Because eventually, let's be honest, the Jets defense, God bless them, they have done everything that they could do within reason. But eventually, they're not going to have anything left in the tank. They're not going to have anything left to give. Their frustration will get out of hand. I'm worried the defense starts to turn on the offense and the entire locker room splinters. And I'll give Robert Saleh credit for one thing. The team does play hard for him. They do. They have. He rallied this team after Aaron Rodgers went down. Not every coach could have done that. But he has been way too stubborn with some of these people, particularly Zach Wilson and Nathaniel Hackett. Because you could have made a case when there was still something to play for, you could have benched Zach Wilson at that time. You could have promoted Simeon. You could have given Boyle a shot even a couple weeks ago when things were not going well, but the Jets were still in games when they were winning games. Now at 4-5, what's the point? Because to me, there is no longer a season to save. I hope I'm wrong, but it's going to take beating both Buffalo and Miami for them to have any chance of that. Because again, the only way they make the playoffs now is winning the division. Forget the wild card. Forget it. Jacksonville, Houston, the entire AFC North, plus throw in Miami and Buffalo. There's no chance at a wild card. Indy's has a pretty decent record as well. There's just no chance. Okay? None. They have about a 2-3% chance maybe of winning the AFC East. And if they don't beat Buffalo and Miami, then just seriously forget it. And realistically, it's just not going to happen. Because this team can't score touchdowns! They can't score touchdowns! There's nothing else for me to say really today, guys. Join me Wednesday night for Wednesday Night Live, 10 p.m. Eastern. We'll see you right back here for more content from you know where. The Wicker Chair.